Ubuntu Rail is envisioned not merely as a transportation project but as a living symbol of the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which expresses the timeless wisdom that, I am because we are, emphasizing unity, humanity, and the deep interconnectedness of all people. The very name Ubuntu Rail carries within it the soul of South Africa, a nation that has endured historical struggles, celebrated cultural triumphs, and steadily moved toward a shared vision of prosperity and collective dignity. In this vision, a train is not simply steel on tracks, it becomes a moving metaphor of inclusion, where every passenger, regardless of background, economic standing, or language, can experience the same journey of comfort, safety, and pride. Ubuntu Rail, therefore, becomes more than infrastructure, it becomes a rolling classroom of human values, a cultural showcase, a green technological innovation, and an economic artery that can reshape the destiny of the region. Its purpose is not confined to speed and efficiency alone, rather, it extends to social transformation, sustainable development, and the revival of pride in African excellence. The philosophy of Ubuntu, when applied to transport, means that a train service must not serve only individuals but communities, binding rural and urban, rich and poor, young and old, into a shared space of equality. Ubuntu Rail is designed to symbolize the end of separation and the rise of shared progress, where a ticket is more than a pass, it is a statement of belonging. South Africa's railway history is long, beginning in the 19th century with colonial infrastructure designed largely for extraction and export, but Ubuntu Rail represents a conscious departure from that past. It is built not for exploitation but for empowerment, not for division but for unity, not for profit alone but for people first. Ubuntu Rail integrates modern high-speed rail technology, renewable energy sources such as solar and wind, smart ticketing, and inclusive design to ensure accessibility for persons with disabilities and the elderly. In every carriage, in every station, and in every journey, the message will be clear. This is a train that belongs to the people, made by the people, and for the people. The rail system will also stand as a landmark in sustainable development, reducing carbon emissions, relieving congested roads, and inspiring new generations to choose green mobility. Ubuntu Rail will connect cities, towns, and provinces in ways that go beyond geography, linking aspirations and destinies while promoting cultural exchange. Tourists boarding Ubuntu Rail will not just see South Africa, they will feel its heartbeat, experience its values, and return home as ambassadors of Ubuntu. Local communities will benefit through job creation, business opportunities, and exposure to broader markets, while passengers will carry with them a renewed sense of belonging to something greater than themselves. Ubuntu Rail will also represent a leap into the future of African innovation, a showcase of how technology, culture, and philosophy can merge into one seamless expression of progress. The design of the trains will include panoramic windows that allow passengers to view the breathtaking landscapes of South Africa, from the rolling savannas to the towering mountains, from the bustling urban skylines to the calm rural heartlands. But beyond beauty, the train will stand for efficiency, equipped with advanced safety systems, real-time monitoring, and energy-saving features that prove Africa can be on the frontier of 21st century transportation. Stations will be more than transit points, they will become cultural hubs, decorated with local art, performances, and exhibitions that tell the story of Ubuntu and the diversity of the South African nation. The act of boarding Ubuntu Rail will therefore be transformed into a cultural ceremony of sorts, where people not only travel but also learn, share, and celebrate. The train will serve students commuting to universities, workers traveling to jobs, families visiting relatives, and tourists exploring new lands, all while carrying within it the promise of equality. Ubuntu Rail will also strengthen economic ties between provinces, enabling goods to move faster and more sustainably while reducing reliance on long truck routes that harm the environment. Farmers in remote regions will gain access to wider markets, artisans will find new customers, and industries will benefit from streamlined logistics. All of these practical benefits combine with the symbolic power of the project, reminding citizens that progress is most meaningful when it is shared. In every advertisement, in every speech, and in every conversation about Ubuntu Rail, the theme of unity will resound. Children will grow up seeing the shining trains as symbols of what can be achieved when people come together under the banner of Ubuntu. International partners and investors will also look upon Ubuntu Rail as a model for how infrastructure can be human-centered rather than purely profit-centered, combining financial sustainability with cultural authenticity. The future of Africa's transport need not be an imitation of Western or Eastern models. Ubuntu Rail offers a uniquely African approach, one that integrates wisdom from the past with aspirations for the future. By choosing the name Ubuntu Rail, South Africa signals to the world that its projects are not just physical but philosophical, not just industrial but inspirational, not just national but universal in their message. As Ubuntu Rail expands, the long-term vision will include cross-border connections that link South Africa with neighboring countries, reinforcing the Pan-African dream of unity and collaboration. Imagine a traveler boarding Ubuntu Rail in Johannesburg and, through seamless connections, reaching Lusaka, Gaborone, Maputo, or Harare, all while carrying the ethos of Ubuntu across borders. This kind of connectivity will transform the region into a true economic community, reducing barriers and fostering cultural exchange. Ubuntu Rail will become a living bridge, not only between places but between people of different languages, religions, and traditions. In the interior of the train, the design will reflect inclusivity, announcements made in multiple languages, food options representing diverse tastes, and spaces where passengers can interact rather than isolate. The train will thus become a microcosm of the nation's ideals, a laboratory of coexistence on wheels. In terms of technology, Ubuntu Rail will explore innovations such as hydrogen-powered locomotives, magnetic levitation segments for ultra-fast routes, and smart infrastructure that adapts to weather and demand. Research partnerships with South African universities will ensure that local knowledge is nurtured and applied, empowering young scientists and engineers to shape their own future rather than depending entirely on imported expertise. This academic-industrial partnership will also inspire curriculum reforms, with transportation studies, environmental science, and cultural studies all finding new relevance in the context of Ubuntu Rail. The project will stimulate not just mobility but education, science, and art. In tourism, the rail will provide luxury coaches where international visitors can experience South Africa in style while also supporting affordable options for ordinary citizens, ensuring no one is excluded. The balance between luxury and accessibility will embody Ubuntu itself, respect for every individual's dignity regardless of wealth. Furthermore, Ubuntu Rail will serve as a tool for reconciliation, healing the scars of past segregation by offering a common space where people sit side by side, equal in their right to travel. The train does not ask for race, class, or history, it simply carries humans, together, on one track of destiny. This symbolic healing is as important as the physical service, for infrastructure without humanity is hollow. Ubuntu Rail fills that hollow with meaning, transforming iron and electricity into hope and solidarity. In the decades to come, Ubuntu Rail will be remembered as more than a transportation project. It will be remembered as a movement, a declaration that South Africa and Africa at large can create world-class systems rooted in their own philosophies. The success of Ubuntu Rail will inspire other nations to adopt similar models, creating a continental web of railways guided by unity and sustainability. The African Union's dream of integrated infrastructure will find tangible expression in the steel tracks of Ubuntu Rail, as people realize that development is not about leaving others behind but moving forward together. In environmental terms, the project will stand as a guardian of the planet, reducing reliance on fossil fuels, minimizing road congestion, and championing green urban planning around its stations. In social terms, it will embody fairness, allowing a child from a small rural village to share the same travel experience as a business executive from a global firm. In cultural terms, Ubuntu Rail will act as a stage where musicians, storytellers, and artists can share their talents in station events, reinforcing pride and heritage. The story of Ubuntu Rail will be written not only in government documents or engineering reports but in the memories of millions of passengers whose lives are made better by its presence. Every arrival will symbolize opportunity, every departure will symbolize hope. When future generations speak of the rebirth of African infrastructure, they will point to Ubuntu Rail as the turning point, the place where philosophy and technology merged in harmony. And as the train speeds across valleys, coasts, and cities, it will carry with it the whisper of Ubuntu, reminding the world that humanity's greatest journeys are not measured in kilometers alone but in the distance hearts traveled toward one another. Ubuntu Rail will thus stand eternally as proof that progress can be kind, that development can be inclusive, and that the true power of a nation lies not in how fast its trains run but in how deeply its people are connected. In this way, the 4,000-word vision of Ubuntu Rail becomes not just text on a page but a call to action, urging all to build, ride, and believe in a future where we are one because we are together.